Loneliness is an epidemic. Millions and millions of individuals, perhaps including you, are struggling with feelings of loneliness. In a time where you can communicate and discover on a scale unprecedented in human history, why do we now feel so disconnected from the world around us? 2 words: video games. The rapid expansion of technology, including video game development, has outpaced our ability to research the long-term effects digital media, such as video games, have on the human psyche. As a result, Generation Z and Alpha are the proverbial lab rats of what is called the digital age. Research coming out points to one hard truth: video games are making you lonely. Let's look at the facts. Loneliness is linked to negative effects on a person beyond just emotional well-being. Being lonely can harm a person's physical health, their ability to learn, and may even inhibit career prospects as an adult. And with so many people from Generation Z and Alpha reporting more loneliness than any other generation, we need to start figuring out why. Recent reports point to video games as a large culprit for this loneliness epidemic among younger generations. One study from the Amsterdam School of Research conducted a 2-way longitudinal study on males and females ages 11 to 17 to observe the link between pathological gaming and their relative level of loneliness. These researchers found some unsettling findings. Not only did they find significantly increased levels of loneliness in both genders that consistently played video games, they also had lower self-esteem and even overall lower life satisfaction compared to those who didn't play any video games. So, regardless of gender, those of us who play video games frequently are more likely to experience loneliness, and as a result, a general negative view about ourselves and our lives. But this study didn't point out exactly why video games make us lonely, so we need to do more digging. Which brings us to another study by the University of Munster in Germany, which found similar results to the study in Amsterdam, but this time they sampled university students. They again found that students playing excessive amounts of online video games to have significantly less meaningful interpersonal connections despite having many online friends, similar to the previous study which reported overall loneliness. However, this study took it further and theorized the main reason for this lack of true friendship likely spurred from the inherent nature of playing online video games. Online gaming is largely unstructured, often lacking real goals, which has been shown to lead to antisocial behaviors. Fake goals, such as weekly challenges and battle passes, are used as retention tactics to keep people engaged, but in terms of real goals that actually develop someone, these games often have very little to offer. Which leads into the next point, that being, video games take time to play. Time that can quickly get out of hand due to just how engaging most games are today. They're fun and feel rewarding, often providing an easier reward loop in your brain than most things outside of that, especially in developing minds. This can cause some adolescents to spend a disproportionate amount of time in online gaming rather than, say, hanging out with friends in the real world, joining a club, or playing a sport. All things that have been shown to be essential for healthy socialization and developing minds. Generation Z and Alpha are missing out on crucial social skills required for meaningful relationships when all of their time is now being spent online instead of in the real world. Simply put, this study argues video games are not an environment that is conducive to real friendship-making skills and often takes time away from activities that provide those essential functions for human connection, which is potentially causing this loneliness epidemic. Another study reinforces the previous 2 we've looked at with similar findings, but this time they studied strictly adults. This study found something very interesting. While the previous 2 studies equated all of the problems to be with every online video game, this study found that not all online gaming led to this significant uptick in loneliness. They broke down the subjects into 2 groups: those with a social motive for gaming and those with an escape motive for gaming. Social motive meaning the people who played largely interacted with existing real-life friends in the game, similar to as if they were watching a football game together. Those with the escape motive were characterized as gaming to unwind or escape from the problems in the real world, to disassociate. Those who gamed with social motives were perceived to have less loneliness than standard, and those who gamed with escape motives perceived much higher loneliness than standard. This shows that the way in which an individual interacts with online video games largely determines the psychological effects from it. With all of this research, what we need to take away is that there must be a serious consideration in rethinking our relationship with video games and how we will use them in the future. Research points to that there are profound impacts on the human mind as a result of gaming, and we need to be very careful about how we use it in the future. Excessive online gaming, and even sometimes mild online gaming, can and might negatively impact the trajectory of someone's entire life. In short, everything that was promised to be social about online gaming is coming out that it doesn't actually fill the desire for social human connection, potentially causing this massive uptick in loneliness that we have never seen before. So we looked at all this research, and we know there is science backing that video games cause loneliness. But then the next question is, what can we do about it? How are we as a community going to solve this massive problem facing so many of our youth? Well, the easy answer would obviously be just throw the Xbox away. But that's not realistic because research shows that gaming can be healthy. And it's also easier said than done when someone who relies on video games and plays them daily to just throw it out. So let's look at some actual solutions that we can work on starting today. And to figure out solutions, we first need to recognize the why behind millions of people gaming for hours a day. The first research theory is the reward systems built into so many games now, such as the Battle Pass mentioned earlier. These systems provide an addictive reward cycle that often hijacks the same part of your brain that is susceptible to gambling and other common addictions. So this means that games nowadays are built to subconsciously hook you, making it harder to turn it off and often leading to an overuse of the game. Which makes sense because every game is moving towards a Battle Pass model, probably because it's so effective at getting you to play. Then, the second scientific reason is that video games provide a sense of power and satisfaction that is often impossible to achieve in real life. Think of all the games where you can be the strongest, have the most money, and live infinite lives. In life, this is impossible, and it bleeds into the escape motive studies mentioned earlier. In essence, the reason why people play video games is because the upfront cost is low relative to the perceived achievement and dopamine your brain gets out of the activity. Knowing this, we can now look at potential solutions. There's no true one-size-fits-all approach when it comes to this because there is currently very little professional recognition on the negative mental health effects from online gaming. But for starters, be conscious about how much time you spend on a game. Open games intentionally and avoid using them as an escape from reality. Play games to have a good time, like watching a show or a good movie, but don't binge them for hours on end every day. You could even go so far as to download an application on your phone or computer that helps with time limiting or management. In addition, uninstalling games that you personally perceive as a problem could help you massively. Stop and consider if your top 1 or 2 games right now are really healthy for your long-term mental health. And if you deem it necessary, consider switching those games out for new ones in a different genre. Speaking of genres, consider switching to single-player or couch co-op games. Note that much of this video revolves around the negative effects of online gaming. This is mainly because throughout my research it showed that couch co-op games and single-player games mostly did not correlate with the psychological effects that would lead to loneliness. These games often provided similar enjoyment as online games but presented a smaller risk in creating the issue of loneliness. Or consider branching out even past video games. Picking up a new hobby or joining a club provide great ways to engage your brain activities that will build crucial social skills for fighting loneliness. It might not sound easy, but it is possible, and it most likely is the solution we need to move towards to help so many of our youth. Ultimately, we need to reduce our time in front of screens playing these online video games and increase our time doing real-life things. But remember that not all gaming is bad. If used responsibly, gaming actually serves as a creative and educational tool that is massively helpful in growing a person. For example, one study finds that video games can actually improve problem-solving skills, potentially to a greater effect in young adults than other methods. Regularly engaging with puzzle or strategy games can enhance a person's problem-solving skills and decision-making ability. Furthermore, 3D and 2D games alike were both shown to increase spatial skills, a critical tool for developing children. Even more, we need to think of educational games like Duolingo. Yeah, that little green bird represents a fairly decent model for gamifying education, an idea that could one day be the standard for all education. Making learning as fun and interactive as current first-person shooters could be a really exciting idea. Finally, we should consider that video games encourage creative thinking and act as an art of their own. Similar to a movie, many incredible video games out there serve as pieces of art that have the ability to tell amazing stories in ways that only video games can. All of these reasons are extremely strong cases that we need video games in the future. We can't just do away with them. Yet, it is still important to approach gaming in a balanced and responsible manner. Moderation, choosing the right types of games, and ensuring that gaming doesn't replace real-world interactions are crucial to maximizing the positive effects while minimizing loneliness. As with any activity, the key is balance and mindful engagement. The unfortunate truth is that most people playing lots of video games fail at the balance part, leading them to feel sad and alone. As the world continues to move further and further online, we must reassess the relationship we have with video games, acknowledging that they have a profound effect on loneliness. If you take away one thing from this video, it's that video games must be used responsibly. I'm also really interested in knowing what you guys think on this topic, so make sure to leave comments and criticisms below. Like if you enjoyed the research, subscribe if you want to see more, and most of all, thank you for watching. Keep it casual.